Hello, this is David Baumblatt from Terabant Leadership. Thanks for joining the program. I appreciate it. Saw the video yesterday. Boy, what a blurry focus on that. So not like a high-level production going on here, mic and a camera. You would think we get that. So for those who got through that program yesterday with the blurry camera, thank you so much. I don't know if I had it fixed. One of the issues could be moving the hands around, something like that. But anyway, appreciate the feedback and appreciate if you made it through. So this is what we're going to do today. The topic is about racism in China. Hopefully, more and more things, and this is the good thing. When I grew up, we didn't have YouTube and social media, and we could say a lot of negative things about TV and social media. I get that, but there's a lot of stuff you could learn from it. I mean, the amount of knowledge that a younger kid is learning in his 20s, when I was in my 20s, through social media, for the good or for bad, is on an epic proportion. So, meaning, how would you really know much about China, when I grew up? So for you, some of this stuff like China is a racist country, and that's not necessarily a negative thing, what I'm saying there. Sooner or later, people are just going to get it. For the same reason that I kept saying that as soon as I went, and we got to talk about how retarded MAGA is, but if you remember when I first came out on social media and I wrote it in my book, China is not the primary enemy of America. And what did I say? The American globalist corporations love China. I worked for them in mainland. I know it's everywhere. So now you're seeing it on television where Trump kissing ass. It's embarrassing, by the way. We'll do a couple video clips that weren't able to get played yesterday. But the point being is you saw it firsthand. And it's not just with Trump, too. That's the key. It's the Democrats. It's the Republicans. Why? Because we both, or they both work for the globalist corporations. And the globalist corporations love China. I don't know, this whole deal, and this is the problem you'll see in the clips, the whole deal of saying communism is evil, which I agree it's evil. But again, China I consider as fascism, but you get my point. Communism is evil. Fascism is evil. Socialism doesn't work. China's our enemy. This, and that. Then what the hell are we doing in Beijing kissing ass? Because something about their system is working. What do I think? Things called fascism. Now, part of the racism is this. It's called ethno-nationalism. We don't like to talk about it because this would come back also to World War II, Adolf Hitler. There was also ethno-nationalism. The only countries in the world that are not ethno-nationalism, probably the West. Israel is an ethno-state. That's a country formed by the Jews. They are some racist people. But I want to make a point. When I say racism, I say again, that's not a negative word. We are all racist, let's face it. But the least racist people in the world are white people. But if you're so least racist, if you're so less racist, if you have so little racism, that's a danger. That's when you just say, I don't care. I don't care about my race. Okay, good luck with that one. Where China, they care so much about the Chinese race that's how the Chinese civilization is able to stay together for thousands of years. So I say again, let's just educate. Quick point. If I ever get on a talk show in the future, I hope the white cuck man or woman doesn't ask the stupid question. David, I just have to ask you this question. Are you a racist? Are you a white supremacist? Oh my God. First, everyone in this world is racist. Two, there's levels. There's high levels of racism and low. Who has the lowest levels of racism in the world? White men in Western countries. White men in Western countries. Okay, let me go on. Hopefully everyone's on here. I see some people on here. Feel free to say hi. So let's go on with some quick news here, and then we'll go into the topic today. So this also goes into race. And I keep saying, what do I keep saying before about the Chinese? The Chinese people and the Chinese government, not much different. Here we're going to show you a clip of Lily Tang, who's a Chinese woman, immigrated to America. She got a U.S. citizen, and now she's running for Congress. She's going to be our leader. Are you kidding me? And MAGA, this is MAGA, and MAGA thinks it's great. Remember, MAGA are liberal cucks. They don't care about race, and MAGA will call you a racist. What MAGA cares about is money, because MAGA is right in with the corporations. And the corporations, it's true, as long as there's money. So this is MAGA. So anyway, this is about a clip with this MAGA cuck guy. I think he's military too, or maybe not. Anyway, here we go. So We're starting out with Lily Tom. Hopefully everyone can see that. And notice this is a video. We're not going to play the video, but this is about the Revolutionary War 250 years ago. And we have the Chinese woman saying, pray for our nation. God bless America. This is not your nation, Lily. Hard to break it to you, but you are Chinese. Your country is China. So I said something like, yeah, go back to China. That's your motherland. And now we got Rick Johnson. And Rick is a MAGA man. He's MAGA. That's your home, commie. Take your place. I just want you to read these comments because I'm telling you, this is the normal MAGA. No, read again. I type slow. No, you're a liberal MAGA cook. You're a child. You're a traitor. This and that. And I just wanted to go down. I don't know if there's more here. Maybe there's more. If you support Lily, quarter of an ounce, whatever. What I just want to say with this point is, this is our country when we talk about racism here. I just want to bring this up. We have a Chinese woman. We've given her citizenship, and we're going to make her our leader. And this is the Nationalist Party, MAGA. And then you're going to tell me white men are racist? We are the least racist. We are so low racism that we're going to destroy our country. So this is where MAGA loves Lily. Why? Because Lily's conservative. I don't know. She's going to do what Trump says, whatever for the money is. I find it just unbelievable how this is happening with MAGA, but let them have fun. All right, let's go to another clip here. This is, well, it's kind of the same sort of thing. Let me just share this here. This is in Scotland. This is a Chinese woman. She's parliament now. She can't even speak English. And no, I'm not one of these MAGA cucks. As long as you speak English, you're what? No, there's race. There's more. It's more. We Europeans, there's more than just language. There's race. But anyway, look at this. This is just funny. So we have this Scottish member here. I don't know what.
仅在此宣誓，我将恪守诚信，并笃实效忠查理斯国王陛下以及他的继承人，并依法履行职责。
Don't worry, you don't know what she's saying, but you don't really need to know. Let me share this. So same thing, same sort of topic here. This is again, same thing with MAGA. So this guy, Kevin, he blocked me. This is Kevin. He's MAGA 100%. We're going to go on. If you think MAGA is our nationalists, they're just not. It's just not happening. Anyway, let's go with Kevin, what he has to say here. Kevin says, or I say something like, here we go. White men should have never allowed white women the right to vote. Remember, this guy's MAGA here. He's got like over 100,000 subscribers, followers. So he's a big MAGA guy. White men and white women are equal. Oh my God. You're such a liberal cock. We're not equal. We're different. And then he blocked me. He's like, fuck you, Kazarian. Shut up. Now, he brings up a good part with the Jew thing. And I've said many times, I believe there's a war on free speech. We all know that. I probably believe the most protected, like in a negative way, protected censor is stuff about the Jews. This whole thing about Khazarians, I don't know, let it out there. But, people say the Ashkenazi Jews aren't real Jews. They're Karzai. You know what I think? I don't know. Free speech, let it out there. But you get what I'm saying. Either way, this guy's a cock. Men and women are not equal. We're different. End of story. Anyone with common sense knows that. All right, let's go to the next one here. This also goes straight with MAGA. This is, again, about the sports. We'll get to the clips. This is we only have one more. But anyway, this is Riley Gaines. I'm not into these MAGA women. These MAGA women are feminists. They don't want to admit it, but they're feminists. So here comes Mandy. She's also a huge MAGA. She's got like 300,000 subscribers. Men do not belong in women's sport. Yeah, well, women don't belong in the military, Mandy. Get a life. These MAGA women are feminists. All right, we're going to do one final clip, then we're going to go on to this. And what do I keep saying for this? It goes into what I'm saying about China. And the reason I emphasize China is two reasons. One, I consider myself a China expert. Two, notice where Donald Trump went? Same thing when I moved to China in 2010. Like it or not, China is going to be a heavyweight player in the future. The global world order is changing, people. In some ways, it's good because if we look up to China, that's a little too strong word, but meaning something is working in China, right? You're probably buying made in Chinese products. This thing's growing. So then you have to ask yourself, what are they doing that's working? Well, I can tell you two things. They don't like diversity and they don't like immigration. So the stuff that we get poured on in the West, and I'll show you the clip in terms of what we're doing, the stuff that we're constantly talked about that we need, otherwise we're not going to be powerful, strong, and successful. China's not using any of that stuff. So how can they be successful? I don't know. Maybe there's something called ethno-nationalism. So as China rises, it's the same thing. I went there and now I see it with my own eyes. It's a different system. And if this system is working, because Trump is basically sucking cock to Xi Jinping, then you have to ask yourself, what is it about this system that's working? Well, like I'm telling you, they are an ethno state. They don't believe in immigration and they don't want diversity. Is that one of the reasons that China's successful? I do. I believe it is one of the reasons China's successful. All right, let's take a look at this here. This is the last clip. This is what I wrote here so you can get it. American government and its Republicans, they lecture us. Communism's bad, fascism's bad, China's the enemy, socialism, then why are the grifting MAGA and corporations going to China? Because something about the Chinese system is making money. And our globalist corporations are like vultures. They want that money.
The US media published photos of Trump meeting with China's President Xi. You can see some top US government officials, including the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, a former Fox News host, the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, who's a billionaire hedge fund manager from Wall Street, Marco Rubio, who's the National Security Advisor and the Secretary of State. And also in the photo, you can see David Perdue. Can you guess what David Perdue did before he became the US ambassador to China? He was the president of Reebok, and then he was the chairman and CEO of Dollar General. So this is the guy representing the US in Beijing right now. And in that photo of them meeting with Trump and President Xi, behind them, you can also see Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, and Steven Schwartzman, the CEO of Blackstone. Once again, these corporate executives are being treated as if they were US government officials. Trump is bringing them to his meetings with the leadership of the Chinese government because these large US corporations are desperate to get access to the Chinese market. China has 1.4 billion people. It is the second most populous country on earth after India. China also has the world's largest middle class in overall numbers. It has more than 800 million people in the middle class who together have the spending power of $7.4 trillion. That is significantly larger than the middle class in the United States or in India or any other country. And the trade war that the US government has been waging against China, not only under Trump, but also under Joe Biden, this has been bipartisan. That trade war has hurt many US corporations. NVIDIA is a great example. Jensen Huang has repeatedly visited China multiple times in the past few years, and he is desperate to get access to the Chinese market. Why is that? It's because NVIDIA used to control 95% of the Chinese market for advanced chips, but that has fallen to 0%. So from a 95% market share just a few years ago to 0%. This is why Jensen Huang was with Trump. China has become the single most important manufacturing power on earth. Tesla is a perfect example of this. The CEO of Tesla is, of course, the world's richest billionaire oligarch, Elon Musk, who was the biggest funder of Trump in his 2024 presidential campaign. And more than half of Tesla's electric vehicles are made in China at the so-called Gigafactory in Shanghai.
So let me break this down because we're going to talk about race. When I left the FBI, I went straight to the Harvard School of Government. I was going to do a dual degree at Harvard, and then I decided to do my MBA in Switzerland. At Harvard, though, in 2007, and you've got to focus on that date too, 2007. This was under Hu Jintao, the president at the time of China. And I think if you remember back then, our relations were really good. And when I was at Harvard, China was a constant topic. At that time, there was nothing, no national security topics about China. It was economic. We would be getting so many lectures from top firms, think about Goldman Sachs, Amazon, you name it, and China is the future. And that was one of the reasons they said, listen, David, you speak Chinese. And at the time, I'm not saying I was definitely not business fluent in Chinese, but I was conversational in it. I did a master's degree in it. I was a single guy and I'm always looking for adventure and I always like to learn, and it just fit in. So what am I trying to say here? Because the title of this video is about racism in China. You're like, David, where are the dots? Connect the dots for us. This is very simple, and it's part about leadership. China, what they care about the most, believe it or not, is people. Hold on, we'll get it. Chinese people. Hey, Spartan China was as poor as Poland after World War II. Amazing. It is. In America, again, you got to put me, I'm the West Point grad in Harvard, and it was China. Now, were they telling me to go to China to learn the culture, learn martial arts, study Taoism? Money, money, money. Remember, this is Harvard, and these are corporations. I've said many times, and I'm telling you, all my videos are going to age like fine wine. The amount of censorship I have, you know, there are elements that don't want my videos out because this is the truth. And you're starting to see the MAGA Trump fall. In fact, I got to get to the story, but there was a woman yelling at me on X. She's like, you're a traitor. You never really supported Trump. Leadership is you focus on the principles. If the person and the principles align, great. But if the person deviates, you stick to your principles. Trump has deviated from nationalism. Hardcore. Epstein files, Israel, war in Iran, China too, stuff like that. We don't really have any principles anymore. So what am I saying? Going back to my point. As evil as the Chinese Communist government, even though they're fascism, I've said that before. I'm going to give you a story on China because we have a lot of videos. Spartan, no longer Bureau. Thanks, Spartan. I know you're right. Can't catch the flak over the target. This is about China. Now, Mao Zedong, and I've said this before about this is why I'm not big into the royal family in England. If you want to be a king, then win a war. We all know now the royals in England are just these rich aristocrats. I don't give a fuck. Prince Harry, Prince Charles, they're fucking meaningless now. We get it. They have power, they have money, but you want to be a king, you win a war. That's why our West Point generals are also a piece of shit. These guys don't win wars. But Mao Zedong, he won a war, man. That was a major war. But in terms of leadership, there's times where leaders are good. Look at President Grant. A good general, sometimes not a very good president. We all know in terms of leadership, sometimes we do better than others. Sometimes in a country, there's economics and security. Some people are better at the economics. That's kind of where Trump is pushing. Some people might be better with security, maybe a general. But some people can't do both good. So my point is Mao Zedong was an amazing general. He won the war. But and it's a very taboo topic, and I never talk about that. You will not talk about this outside China. The only time you'll talk about this is if you really have good Chinese friends within. But once Mao Zedong took charge and ran the country under communism, I'm telling you, the truth is, it wasn't that great. The Great Leap Forward was a Great Leap disaster. Look at the Soviet Union. I've said many times, I believe history is going to rewrite about Adolf Hitler and National Socialism. Or if the people want to call them the Nazis, that's fine. But communism has never been a good ideology. And so Mao Zedong, a great general, not something you want to talk about. We'll just keep it light because I even have to watch myself here in Hong Kong, the free speech. But the Chinese will admit this because I get this from the Chinese. But his economic policies, we're just going to say not that great. But then, which I consider to be an extraordinary man, Deng Xiaoping, about 1970s, when Mao Zedong died, he came in. And there were two economies that he studied, I told you, was Japan, which is considered the Germany of Asia, and Singapore, which is a British colony, or was. And he said, that's where we're going to go. And that was the major change that started transitioning China from communism into, but technically that's more evil, right? I mean, in America, fascism is technically the most evil ideology. It's even more evil than communism. Again, we've been indoctrinated. So technically, when I look at China now, because people don't get it, there are videos on YouTube. They're like, is China capitalism? Is China socialism? It's fucking fascism, people. It's as simple as that. China is fascism. China is National Socialism. We've been indoctrinated, though, that word fascism, it's a very evil word, right? National Socialism, they can't. That's why China uses the word, we are socialism with Chinese characters. Those Chinese characters mean nationalism. So they're National Socialists. I want to go back in that original point. In China, I'm telling you, as much as they want now the economy's revving, this is back in the 1970s with Deng Xiaoping, they still look upon as the most important element of China as their people. I get it. There's been atrocities that's happened with their people, but it's their people. As a foreigner in China, I am telling you, they were never going to accept you. It is China first. What about America? It's all about money, people. Even look at the MAGA people. They don't care. Legal immigration, Vivek Ramaswamy. Even the woman, Lily Tang, who's a Chinese national, she's going to be our leader because even MAGA will tell you, MAGA, the Republicans, racism is not tolerated in our party. There's this West Point grad, he's not my classmate, who's the black guy in Texas who's married to a white woman, have mixed kids. I can't remember. And he's like, I remember when I was in Iraq with my West Point classmates, and I could tell you something. We don't care anything about race. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that was me back at West Point. I wouldn't doubt it. But after living in China, I've become very racial. So the point being is MAGA, they don't care what race you are as long, remember, Vic, as long as there's money. Where did we get that ideology from? A globalist corporation. That's what we are. We are the biggest influence that we have in America is from these globalist corporations. Now, some people would say, yeah, but those are the Jews behind it. Well, I'm not going to argue with that. Maybe it is. But I'm just saying, money is our ruler. And it's not that way in China because it's similar in some ways to Japan. Japan is willing to take an economic hit to keep their country Japanese. I like that. I find we would never do that. Trump will never do that. Trump is a CEO and it's American corporations first and you American citizens second. So you have to remember that one of the big differences, America, we are money. And I knew that even in 2010 when I left, I said, just seems all about the money here. It's just everybody just makes money individual. That's why we like individuals. We're all individuals, make money. I don't care if you're a Muslim. Oh, you're a pedophile. I don't care. Can we make money? You do drugs. I don't care. As long as we make money. So when that group, there are probably some MAGA people are like, dude, it seems kind of weird that Trump and the globalist corporations went to China. Not me. I've been saying this. They're not. They love China. And I've said, I look at Trump more as a CEO than a president. And what does a CEO need to do? Profits and losses, people, profits and losses. He's got to keep those revenues up. And the tariffs are to protect the corporations. Going to China is one of the companies too. We'll get to I think it was Boeing. What a piece of shit company Boeing is that went there. Let's start doing some videos. I see Adolf Hitler fix a collapsed economy. What he did. You have to remember. You got to use common sense. Someone else on X looked at me. He's like, "Bullshit, you're lying about free speech." China is not known for free speech. China doesn't say that they're a country of free speech. America does. And we know it's bullshit. But what I said, people on X think I'm lying. People on X think whatever. They think I'm working for fucking China. They still think I'm in the FBI site. I mean, it is such a fucked up thing what's happening in America. No one knows what's going on. No, this guy David's a psycho. He's still with the FBI. No, he's with China. No, he's with Israel. It's like whatever. So what did I say? There are topics in China that are more free to discuss than America. I'll stake my life on it because what are they? The Jews, Adolf Hitler, gender, race. Now, it is true. You don't fuck with the government. But it is true. China is not known for free speech. But I am telling you, the topics in America that are very taboo, but you have no clue what is just openly talked about. I mean, you could be, I've seen it. I will do some videos later. I mean, you could be a store manager in China and just be like, sorry, I don't want blacks. No blacks, get out. And the black guy says, I'm going to, they'll never do this, but I'm going to call the police on you. Okay, call them. And the police come and be, excuse me, yes, I'm a Black American, and that Chinese man in the store called me a nigger. And he said, no niggers allowed in this store. Can you help me? The Chinese police will be like, get the fuck out of our country. It's a different world. You're in there, they'll be like, oh, Adolf Hitler, very good leader, strong leader, very good leader. You will hear stuff that you will never, I cannot tell you, and I've said this many times, the three things that have influenced my life is obviously when you're a child, particularly from your father. Again, that's another reason why our country's going down. We don't have fathers anymore. We have single mothers, but childhood. The second would be the military, because it's a very strong culture and leadership, and it is very different than the civilian world. The third is China. Oh my God. And you just see stuff, and it does make you question that why are we indoctrinated to think World War II, Adolf Hitler and the Nazis were the most evil thing around? But if you use common sense, the Soviet Union, communism, Stalin, are you kidding me? Are you really kidding me? So we all know something is wrong. So let's start going to these videos. But like I said, if you heard what I said about, if you go back to my videos, what I've been saying in 2 years, everything what I predicted is right. I had no doubt that the corporations would go there. Why? Because I live in China. I see it all the time. All right, let's do some videos here to see what this is. Now let's do this quick vid I want to do. And this is Benny the Bagel Shapiro. I know a lot of people don't like Benny these days. I don't have a problem with Benny the Bagel Shapiro. As long as he's registered as a foreign agent for Israel, I still support free speech in America. But Benny should just have a logo with the Israeli flag. And there's nothing wrong. I've always said, I don't believe the Israel or the Jews betrayed us. Israel looks out for the Jews first. China looks out for the Chinese people first. Russia looks out there's nothing wrong with that. Our governments betrayed us, our American corporations. So Benny the Bagel, as long as he registers as an agent of a foreign power, Israel, I have no problem with him. But anyway, let's talk about the bullshit here about how communism is evil, that we've been, and then why are we kissing ass to China, even though technically it's not communism anymore, but you get it, it's the same thing. People throwing the word around still with China being communism. Don't tell me this is the second time this has done this.
I guess, option to push communism at all costs.
To push
communism.
Communism? Well, I mean, I'm not aware of the kind of provision that you're talking about in Colorado law. So I'd have to be familiar with what the provision is of law. Obviously, communism bad. Also evil. Also
True.
killed 100 million people. So I'm bewildered by people. I'm bewildered by people who are romantic toward communism. It is a gift of growing up in a one thing that all the communists who live in America have in common is that they live in America. Move to Cuba and then tell me how wonderful communism is without being a part of the prevailing regime. It's easy for Michael Moore to talk about the glories of the Cuban healthcare system while he has his WGA card. It's a little bit different when Michael Moore,
We don't need to do the whole video, but I want to do this is most people don't get China now, and that is technically it's fascism, why it's doing so well. But you know as well as I do, most people will still say China's communism. So then I asked MAGA, if we've been indoctrinated that communism is so evil, why did Trump go to China to kiss ass and all the corporations? Meaning, what does it say about our morals? We just care about the money. We just care about the money. We'll be in North Korea. But it also shows that, again, because of fascism, we don't like to talk about it. Maybe there's a better political model than we have. It's not communism, but you do have to scratch your head. If China is building and getting better, how are they doing? If our model is the best, our political ideology, this capitalism, liberal democracy is the best, then why are we intimidated with this growing China? Perhaps National Socialism is better. Now, people ask me, hey, David, should I go to China? And I always ask this one question first. What is your ethnicity? If you are Chinese American or Chinese Canadian, this and that, it's a totally different answer to you, because you could go to China. It's your motherland. They will accept you for Chinese. But David, I was born in America. I don't speak any Chinese. I am telling you, I know more Chinese than you, meaning I'm talking to a Chinese American. I've lived in China and, all this stuff. But, and you don't speak Chinese, you don't know anything about the culture. But when you go to China, because you're ethnically Chinese, you will fit in China much better than I will, and you'll eventually be welcomed as, I guess you could say, part of the family, and you can become a Chinese citizen. So this is an ethno state in China. So you do have to understand that China and Xi Jinping will put the Chinese people. This is part of racism. Is this bad? Is this good? Sounds a bit of loyalty to me. I don't have a problem with that. The problem is white people, where do we go? We got no place to go. And I've always said this. The worst people in the West, the worst, aren't the Chinese, aren't the blacks, Africans, aren't even the Jews, are the white people. I have no doubt about it. The first people that, it was like the same thing on X, these white, I don't know if they're boomers, cuck, MAGA, I don't like your racist thing. I'm glad you left in America. You're not. I get it all the time. These are white women and white men. They fucking hate me. And so the point being is we have other countries, because it's not just China. You go to Japan, you go to Israel with the Jews. They put their ethnic people first. But God forbid you try to do that in the West. Who will be the first people in your face telling you that you're some type of Nazi? It'll be white people. It'll be white people. No doubt about it. It will be a white man or a white woman, and they will take so much pleasure in calling the police and getting you arrested on some type of racism. I've seen it so many times. And so when I think of this anger, this hatred, this betrayal, I don't have a problem with the Chinese. I don't have a problem with the Chinese at all. But you got to remember, and I go, I'm trying to look on here, example, Africa, last Steve, I'm trying to look at this stuff. But when you think about with the Chinese, it's sort of like this in terms of how you look at them. Think if you're probably, hopefully should be, a heterosexual man. We love women, right? We love women. You're probably jerking off the porn. We love women. We love beautiful women. We like the traditional men, protect women, this and that. But we don't want to become a woman, and we don't want a woman becoming a man. So as much as we love women, and particularly you should like white, as a white man, you should honor white women as the highest. But we don't want to become a woman, and we don't, and that's what I'm saying. I don't like this whole thing about no men and female sports. All right, well then stay the fuck out of the military. I mean, it has to work both ways. There's things that men don't do, and there's things that women don't do. I'm going to relate this to China. So one, we have so much respect, passion, love, whatever you can for women, but we also want separation. That is how I would handle China, that Trump is not. Because what is Trump is just a CEO. I am telling you, what Trump is going to do is exactly what all the other presidents have done. He is going to take the lead with his globalist corporations. It's going to be money, people. It's money. And if it comes, it's the same thing. Trump likes to hand out these with the golden visas where rich people can come to America and become an American citizenship. Doesn't care about the race. I mean, Donald Trump loves Vivek Ramaswamy. He's going to do the same thing because it's all about the money. So my view on China is there's nothing wrong being a nationalist where you have an interest, a fondness for other people. This is where they paint us as we hate Black people. We hate. I've spent a good proportion of my life studying the Chinese. That is a sign of respect. Studying their culture, studying their language. So I study them, but at the same time, I don't want to be Chinese, and I don't like it when the Chinese are like me. That same concept with women and men. So what would I say? Well, there's many things I would do, but the basic thing is this. I would never allow the Chinese, even this Lily Tang, no, but they're good, they're capitalists, they support MAGA. I don't care. I would never allow them to become American citizens. Where did I learn that from? I learned from China. So we could still get along with the Chinese, but there's got to be that separation. It's the same thing with men and women. We like women, women like men, but we all know there needs to be a bit of a separation. So women stay women, men stay men. I don't like when women start. I had this woman, I told this before, it was like a year ago. She's like, David, I think you and I would be a good match. I think I'm your perfect woman. I like boxing. I'm a boxer. I like hunting. I like guns. She sounded like a boyfriend, like a buddy I'd like to hang out with, not a girl. I don't know. I mean, aren't you into maybe yoga or I don't know. What do girls do? You do ballet, like do that stuff. So the point is we can respect each other. What's that famous phrase? Good fences make good neighbors. It's a great phrase. That's how it is with China. I'm telling you, they're not the number one enemy. The number one enemy is the globalist American government and Adolf Hitler, I don't believe, had hatred for other races. I don't. Again, I'm not an expert on World War II, but I could just say I don't think we know the truth. But I could tell you it's the same thing with China. China does not have any hatred for America. They actually look up to America like, wow, but they are tired of America being their boss. I can't blame them. I'd be the same way. But China has no ambition to be a global superpower like America to rule the world. It's not in them, I'm telling you. So sometimes the best way to get along with other nations is to have that respect. So if you're a nationalist, even if you're like, David, this is going to sound weird, but I want to move to Africa and I want to live there and study the culture. Okay, I mean, I get it. There's other, you should go abroad. But I'd say at the end of the day, probably after a couple of years in Africa, after you learn stuff and you'll grow, you'll probably figure out that that's not your home. And and then maybe you want to go back home to your white country, but you could use that knowledge maybe as a diplomatic bridge to, your horizons. Going overseas is so much better than universities in many ways. So you go to these places, you study them as a sign of respect. But at the same time, I don't want to become them, and I don't want them to become me. And that's what I'm saying. When I see Chinese come to America or Taiwanese, I could do Indians, whatever, and you see it in MAGA. I mean, the one that comes to my mind is Vivek Ramaswamy. Why would I want a non-European man to be the leader of a European country? Why? Do you think you could go to India and become an Indian citizen, an Indian politician, or God forbid, the prime minister? Never. They'll never allow that. Even me, I can never become a Chinese citizen. So we have to make sure we know him, but it's not going to happen. I'm telling you, what's going to happen with Donald Trump is he is going to be infused. And I sort of was worried about this. He's going to be, even though I had more faith in him because he was a much more stronger persona, but even what he's doing well, it still is in the context of a CEO. For instance, illegal immigration. Perfect sense. They need to be deported. Because if you're thinking about money and finances and economic, illegal immigrants are a drain on the system. But legal immigrants, I guarantee Trump is going to be for. They're either going to be cheap or they're going to be really smart. He is going to be absolutely pro-legal immigration. He doesn't care about race. Why? Because I've said it before, when you're a multi-billionaire like Donald Trump, it's very difficult to say you're not, especially, come on, he's the president of America. He's well within the elite circles. And in these circles, they have no care about the white race. It just makes up. But I could tell you something. When he was in China, Xi Jinping 100% cares about the Chinese people and all the Chinese people throughout the world. And so you might say, but David, wouldn't that be a national security issue with espionage where they recruit their? Absolutely. Absolutely. You're going to see it. You're going to see the more the Chinese overseas, and I just did the video yesterday about the mayor in California. You think she's the only one? But MAGA will tell you, let's not get racist, though. Let's not get racist. We're all American citizens here. It's just, and we only hate and that's what we say too. Remember, we keep saying this bullshit that we love the Chinese people, but we just don't like the Chinese government. That's not what Trump was doing. Trump kissed the Chinese government's asshole, kissed their asshole. So nothing's making sense. The only way the best to understand the American government is think like a corporation and think like money. Just follow the money. But if you think that ideology, and remember I told you, when you're doing a human intelligence for recruitment, The most difficult form of recruitment is ideology. I didn't work counterterrorism, but sometimes I heard it from my partners working counterterrorism that sometimes the ideology was about religion. We're not very good at that in America. The best form of recruitment for Americans is just money or favors. You know, your kid needs a hospital treatment. We'll get the hospital treatment. Oh, you need to get a house, something like that. But it's usually monetary, usually favor. Why? Because we grew up in America in a very transactional, economic, corporate culture. So we think transactional. And that's the best form that we're used to doing recruitments. But there's people that not. They'll do it for ideology. So going back to China, they're not thinking money. They look at China as a greater diaspora of their family. We don't have any family. Are you kidding me? In America, who's a family? Well, our families are done. I mean, we killed the father. You kill the father, you kill the family. We're not reproducing. We don't have families anywhere. But I'm just talking about generally in America. I mean, the amount of diversity happening in America, forget the country, just think of the state. Do you really think the state, like, I'm from the state of Wisconsin, and I'm telling you, us Wisconsinites, we're one big family? I doubt that. I doubt we're even on the state level. We're nothing but a family. I've seen it in China. It's unbelievable. For that population so big, it is like an extended family. It also helps that they're all not only Chinese, Han Chinese. Goes back to the race. Let's do a couple more videos here. But the one thing I want to do about the Benny the Bagel was communism evil, communism evil. Then why are we kissing ass to China? Wouldn't that be a good example? Why aren't we there? Because I tell you, we're all about the money. At the end of the day, we're just about the money. Here's a couple more things from Donald Trump.
Things from them. One thing he agreed to today is going to order 200 jets. That's a big thing, Boeing's.
Boeing.
200 big ones. That's a lot of jobs. It's a lot. Boeing wanted 150, he got 200. He said, I think it was a commitment. I mean, sort of like a statement, but I think it was a commitment.
This is the same Trump government. They don't want to answer me over my Boeing lawsuit. What a piece of shit corporation. I literally got legal justice in China for my Boeing case. Never got showed up. But again, this is one of these corporations, this piece of shit, corrupt. I didn't even tell you what other happened in Boeing. Now remember, you got to remember the old David and the new David. If not remember what I'm telling you, in my olden days, I was extremely patriotic if you were a military veteran. I'm telling you, it was recorded. I mean, how many times, even me as a brand new special agent in the FBI, I never got the money back, $8,000 of my own money to a military veteran, specifically because he's a military veteran. If he wasn't, I wouldn't do it, because he was on hard times, his business was failing, and he really needed the help. I've always been this way. That was the old me. I'm not saying that's the new me. Now, if you say, hey, David, I'm a military veteran, I don't know, who are you? So this is also about my Boeing case. I didn't mention his name. I wanted to save his identity. Now, remember, before I was illegally fired from Boeing, I was up for a promotion that was approved all the way from headquarters. Because they always like to do this. Was I a bad apple? Same thing in FBI. I think he got fired from the FBI. He was a bad apple. No, I didn't. I quit. I was up for a promotion in Boeing. It's a good thing to remember. But anyway, one of the issues I had with ethical whistleblower was there was an open position in Asia, in Singapore. Because at the time I had a lot of networks, particularly because officers, there's a lot of what's called Service Academy graduate networks, Naval Academy, West Point, Air Force Academy, sometimes the Coast Guard, but it was a lot of Naval Academy and West Pointers. Sometimes there'd be the Air Force, but then others, it would be maybe non-academy officers. So there's all these groups. Because when you're an expat overseas, and that's how they were able to spy on me so much, you reach more to your American friends because you realize you're like, wow, there's very few of us, and we're stationed in different countries. There'd be a guy in Japan, there'd be a guy in South Korea. I don't know. We would just be on these WhatsApp and WeChat lines, and they would be in different countries. And it also extended past American. There was Australian military officers, British, but it was all military. Most of them were officers. It's just the thing it was. So trying to look at it. So then all of a sudden, I get a resume out of the blue saying, David, there's a Naval Academy guy. I'm not going to say his name. It's written in what happened. There's a Naval Academy guy who's about to retire from the Navy in South Korea, and he's looking for work. Do you have anything at Boeing? I said, send him my resume. And then I had a call with him. He knows who I am. I didn't mention, he didn't do anything wrong. But this was the days that I would immediately help out a military veteran. And I said, dude, there's a job open in Singapore with Boeing. It's in my department. I was at the time, I'm in Beijing with Boeing. And I said, do you want it? He goes, man, it looks great. I said, I think you got great qualifications. Because he wasn't in the Navy ships. He was with Navy Aviation. And he had a lot of Asia experience because he spent his time there, leadership. And let's face it, Boeing, an American company that always says they put America first, American citizens first, and of course, American military veterans first. I'm like, you're a shoo-in, man. I sent his resume to the hiring manager, who's Chinese. And I was like, I said, this guy, I said, I know this person from a friend of a friend. I've interviewed him on the phone. Here's his resume. I think he's a perfect fit for it. Guess who they hired? They hired a less qualified Chinese person. Why? Race. Solely on race. Because you don't know, in China, there's this thing called, I'm forgetting the name now. Oh, Comac. It's called Comac. It is their version of Boeing. Like we all know, there's the Airbus, which is from Germany or France, European. There's Boeing. There's not really much other competition, but China's building Comac. Are they stealing information from Boeing to building Comac? Yup, is what it is. I mean, it's a different world in China. Anyway, hands down, the Naval Academy graduate was so much more quality. Now, remember, if this was a Chinese company, I would be totally different. It's a Chinese company, whatever they want to do. It's the boss's son. It's Xi Jinping government. I always respect other cultures. This is Boeing. This is an American company. Your tax money pays for this company to get rich. This company also is part of the military industrial complex that always says they put military veterans first. And that guy, as a Naval Academy grad, he's obviously a military veteran who served his country. Not like I give a shit now, but you got to remember, back in the day, I was much more patriotic with my military veteran status. I'm not anymore. But anyway, I brought this up to hire. I did an ethical whistleblower. That was part of it. I said, this is absolutely, because this is when I still drank the Kool-Aid. It's a different world out there. You don't screw with these corporations. You think the FBI is powerful? You think the CIA is powerful? Yeah, you start going against BlackRock and all we're going to do a clip too on this. You'll get this point. My videos are going to age like fine wine. You're going to get, you don't screw with these corporations. That's where the power is, not with the government. When Trump went to Beijing, do you think he said, oh, I'm going to bring CIA? No, they're a bunch of fucking idiots. I'm going to bring the FBI. Fucking idiots. No, I'm going to bring corporations. Brings the corporations. That's the power. Why? Because we are a corporation. Anyway, I brought that up as a whistleblower. Worst mistake I've ever done. I'm telling you, at the end of the day, you know what I would tell you? If you think you're working in a corporation that's unethical, do not do what I did. I just should have shut my mouth. I was up for a promotion. It was the most stupid thing I've ever done because this is what we're taught at West Point. But I've also changed. My view of West Point, the military, I cannot tell you how much I've changed, and it's dangerous. Because more and more Americans, if they start changing like I am, like you don't care anymore about the fucking American government. I don't care about military. You don't give a fuck. And it's happening more and more. So anyway, trying to go back. So that was one of the corporations that Trump is like, yeah, Boeing. What a piece of shit fucking corporation that is that puts China before America. Totally. Anyway, let me go. I want to bring this clip up because now we're talking about, I want to bring this clip up. I actually like this guy. This guy's former CIA whistleblower. It's a shame. I don't think he would like me. And that is, I think he's heard the term. I could be wrong, but I think I've heard him say like, yeah, we still have a problem in America of racism. And I'm like, oh my God, please. I really like this guy. As much as I said the CIA and the FBI are just not very top notch. I actually think this guy's pretty bright. He's on it. And of course, he's a whistleblower, so he took his career. And I could be wrong, but on this video, what he's talking about, he's 100% right. And we're going to do a story on just what I said about Boeing and about the best and the brightest in the CIA. No, but I like this guy. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we might have different ideologies, particularly on race. But anyway, watch this quick clip and I'll tell you about it, because I have a backstory on this.
How does the US government work with the main companies like Google and Microsoft? They work
hand in glove
with all of the big tech companies. In fact, a former boss of mine, when I came back from Athens, I was assigned to a branch in the Counterterrorism Center where I was training Middle Eastern intelligence services how to do counterterrorism operations. And I worked for this guy, really great guy, laid back. He had been in a long time. He had been chief of a big station and 2 small stations. And he came up to us one day and he said, "Hey guys, just wanted to let you know I'm going to resign." We're like, "What? You're still 5 years away from your 30. Why would you resign?" And he said, "I got a really great job at Microsoft and they're going to pay me
8 times what I'm making here."
And that's normal. So they're everywhere. It's not just Google and Microsoft. It's Meta and it's X and it's everywhere. They're everywhere. There's a benefit for both sides. You know, from the CIA side, my God, it's obviously you get access to the biggest, most advanced, most important tech companies in the world. And for the tech companies, you've got a direct channel to the intelligence community. You know, you don't just forget about all your contacts and your friends and former colleagues when you leave to go into the private sector. So that works out for both sides, which is actually
A dangerous thing.
Okay. Ponce, I'll comment on the Comac after this. So remember we talked about, it's the same thing. I'll make 2 points. Remember when TikTok, even though TikTok technically it's under America, but this was even during the days where it was China owned and managed all throughout the world. I cannot tell you how many yo-yo FBI and CIA guys, remember, China's the enemy, China's the enemy. Oh my God, job with TikTok, gone. So anyway, this story is in the FBI, same thing. What did I keep saying? It's so much about the money. 90% of the people in our government are not doing it for duty on our country. It just happens to be the best paycheck and the best pension they can get. I go back to those FBI grifters. I say again, this, and people say, why do you think they're grifters? Very simple question. If they were like me and they thought that the FBI was so corrupt, incompetent, why didn't they do what I do and just quit? They could still do a whistleblower status like I did when they left. Now they're going to say, I didn't want to quit because I love public service and I like fighting corruption and I like helping out my fellow Americans. That's what they should have said, meaning what they do. Well, they didn't fucking do it to me. I think it's horseshit. I think it was just money. Anyway, here's the story. This is the FBI New York office. The FBI New York office is considered in the military sort of like the Ranger Regiment. If you're in the New York office with the FBI, it's got a bit of creme de la creme, esprit de corps, because in New York, they work everything. I mean, every case around the book. It's also one of our big 3 offices that the person in charge is what's called an assistant director. Anyway, to make a long story short that coincides to this, there was a special agent in charge, which is right under the assistant director. This would think about him as a general. Now, again, I was a field agent, a special agent. A special agent in charge, that's pretty high. Again, that's a general. And that, you know, that's a career person. Anyway, long story short, he's 2 years away from his retirement from the FBI. And of course, it'll be a nice retirement because he's at that senior management level. He's not just a regular FBI agent. So that's a nice retirement. And of course, he did it for all duty on our country. And guess what? Because he's in New York, he's got good relations. One of the major investment banks in New York said, we want to hire you to be head of security. Major position, and they don't come around very often. And they told him that. And he says, listen, I've got 2 years until I retire from the FBI. Can you wait 2 years? And then I'll take the job in a heartbeat. These are the stories that was told, and it's absolutely true because I know these people and I know what happened. So anyway, the bank is like, we don't wait 2 years. I mean, this is like one of the most top banks in the world. He's like, we can't wait 2 years. We need to hire you now. What's your pension? what is your pension? What is it? You know, the benefits, the money that you're making. And he said it. He said, this is what I got. He goes, we'll pay that off. Here's your salary. And guess what he did? This duty, honor, country person, he quit. Now, what I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to paint me as this holy roller. But what we're trying to do is, and part of leadership is let's have a bit more candor. Just like if you're an American citizen, say, David, I got to tell you the truth. I don't like thanking you military veterans for your service. I think you served the corporation. That's it. Let's get it out. I mean, can you blame an FBI agent where he's like, you know something, truth be told, and this has been said to me many times behind closed doors, you know, they don't want to tell the public, truth be told, this was the best job I could ever get in terms of the money and the benefits. So we're not saying that's the perfect answer, but that at least gets the ball rolling to say, okay, meaning stop bullshitting us. And like I said, I left the military and leaving the FBI was a little difficult because it is a nice life, but I left. I'm not saying I have high morals. Am I saying I have higher morals than a lot of these? I do. I really do. I mean, if you look at my background, it's so ingrained. The more I've lived in my life, the more I see that, especially from America, money really rules us. It's really about money. So Panza, let me talk to you quickly about Comac. So Comac, true, there's one model, but it's the main model, and it's a US copy. So here's what's happening. Many of the critical parts are coming from Airbus. This is part of Boeing. I work with Comac. I did kind of a liaison. That's why I saw it. Comac is headquartered in Shanghai. And part of Boeing and Airbus, I'm not too familiar with Airbus. I had some briefings, interaction with them. But obviously with Boeing, the deal with the Chinese government is very simple. If you want us to buy your airplane, we want to start getting this technology. And that technology, and I said to Boeing, so we're giving them the technology. He goes, it's the way it is. We either get, now there's technology stolen, but there's also technology given to them. And so part of that was me also having to liaison with Comac in Shanghai. So the goal is they're making the planes in Shanghai. But it is true, there's a lot of critical parts that are coming from both Airbus and from Boeing. But guess what? The number of those critical parts outsourced from overseas, it's getting less and less and less. Soon, so the current plane now with Comac it's mostly for domestic purposes only. They are starting to sell it to other non-Western countries because they could get a much cheaper price, meaning these other countries, than they can for Airbus and for Boeing. But I'm telling you, where is Comac going? The same place that China's going. It's going up, meaning it will continue to get developed and it will continue to become more of an independent company, less dependent on the parts from Boeing and Airbus. And I've seen that even the time that I was there now. But it is true. He said Airbus did not sell them. They asked for one plane only, and that deal never. Yeah, I don't know about Airbus. So, but in terms of Boeing, though, China was a huge market. China was their largest, for Boeing, China is their largest market outside of America. The amount of money that the executives were making, they were falling over. If you go back to my videos, remember I said I saw the Boeing executives kissing ass to the Chinese government? You don't see there were similarities with Trump. That's the same thing. These Boeing executives would be in these dinners with these government figures in China. Oh, champagne going through the roof. Not champagne, baijiu and wine. But anyway, unbelievable business partners. Yeah, Panza, I would still say it's the same thing I've seen anywhere in China. China is improving. As China increases, again, I say the same thing, and I think people are seeing it. If China is not doing very well, then why did America send an entire delegation to China to kiss ass? We're not doing that with other countries. We're not going to the Philippines. We're not going to Africa and doing that. We're not going to South America and we're doing that. We're not even going to do that to Russia. I'm telling you, we're not going to do that to Russia. So why are we doing that to China? China's getting more powerful, and Trump knows it. Trump is also thinking business, even after his presidency, where he could put his anchors in to make money for his kids and his business. So I keep saying China is absolutely increasing. If it's not, then why would America, particularly this strong nationalist president called MAGA Trump, be absolute a kiss-ass embarrassment? It's all throughout the Chinese media right now. I mean, I don't know how it's portraying in America, but in China, it's portraying that the emperor allowed the foreigner, what's the word, attendance at the court. It's completely embarrassing. So anyway, let's go on to another one about these.
This is huge breaking news coming in. Xi Jinping just told Donald Trump to his face that America is a nation in decline. And Trump's response on Truth Social is being called one of the most embarrassing moments of his presidency. Now, the main thing to understand is what actually happened. During a Beijing summit, Xi invoked the Thucydides trap, a geopolitical theory about a rising power replacing a fading one. The message was clear: China is rising. America is fading. He said it directly to Trump's face inside the Great Hall of the People. Trump's response? He agreed. He posted on Truth Social saying she was 100% correct, but then immediately blamed Joe Biden for the decline. Not China, not Xi, Biden, the man who built his entire brand on America's back, just stood in Beijing, heard Xi call America a declining nation, and said, yeah, that's right, my predecessor did that. The bigger message is clear. Xi did not insult Biden in that room. He insulted the president sitting right in front of him. Make sure to follow for later.
You can take that as you want, but Trump was a bitch. It is what it is. Now, why do I play that video? Again, look at my predictions. When I first went out on social media, what did I keep saying? I said the American empire is in decline. Anyway, it's the title of my book. I mean, you go Patriots Betrayed, the leadership crisis, it goes in there. And what are people pushing back? Yeah, right, man. Yeah, right. It's happening. Now you have Donald Trump. It's the same thing like I said about how the American corporations love China. Yeah, right. Once you start seeing this in the news, you saw the American corporations going to China, kissing ass. They don't do that with other companies. In fact, Trump made an order. They said all the companies that come, that has to be the CEOs. He goes, I will not have, whatever, the chief operating and the number twos. It has to be the top level of the companies. Well, sounds like they really like China because they like money. And is America in decline? You're going to see it. I'm telling you, it's obvious. I've been saying that from day one. America is in decline. It is so obvious. But a lot of these Trump, I'm telling you, a lot of these Trump MAGA people really just very weird. So now we're going to talk about this video here, the Thucydides trap. This is, again, when I was at the Kennedy School of Government. And we'll talk about this. This is what's happening, and this is dangerous. We have a rising power, and we have a declining power. You got to remember, you got to go back to before World War II. I mean, could you imagine if you were a German, a French, a Russian, an American, 15 years before World War II, not knowing that a major war is coming? And losers lose and winners win. America got lucky. Again, I don't think we should have fought the Germans in World War II, but that's another story. But anyway, losers lost and winners won. So after World War II, an entire new global order was set. And when you were born, just like I was born, we were just born into that global order, which is basically America is the boss. That global order is going to change. I've been predicting this now. Well, remember, I left America in 2010. It was also my prediction. It could be dangerous. And you're really looking at rising powers and declining. And who is that? Well, when you're the superpower of the world, America, there's only one direction you can go, people. Only one. You're going down. And I've even said this when Donald Trump was elected. I said, I like Donald Trump, but I've said this all. He's not going to save the system. Now he's gone to total dog shit. But anyway, he's not going to save it. But America, there's only one. It's going down, people, because the new global world order, if you think China is pushing this, you're wrong. There are so many other nations that are tired of America being this dominant boss. They're just tired of it. I'm not saying they want China to be the boss, but what they are looking for is a multipolar world where it's just going to be more, and we're going to go into that very tense situation. But who would be the aggressor to start a form of World War III? According to Thucydides traps, it would be the declining power. It would be America. And I put my money on that. Well, you all know America, we're always getting into wars. So without a doubt, I put my money on America starting the war, not with China. But anyway, here we go.
at Harvard's Kennedy School. Professor, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it. So, in his public comments yesterday, President Xi once again referenced a theory you popularized called the Thucydides trap. Can you briefly explain that theory for our viewers and why the Chinese continue to bring it up?
Oh, thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be here. So Thucydides was the founder and father of history. He wrote a famous book about 2,000 years ago called The History of the Peloponnesian War. And in it, he explains that when a rapidly rising power, like Athens, he was writing about, threatens to displace and establish ruling power, that creates a dynamic that typically ends in war. I wrote a book about this called Destined for War, which I looked at the last 500 years. We've seen 16 instances, 1/6, in which a rapidly rising power threatened a major ruling power. Think, for example, the rise of Germany in the period after reunification prior to 1914 and the impact that this had on the British Empire. 12 of these cases ended in war, 4 in no war. So war is not inevitable, but war is the natural outcome of the structural dynamic that occurs when a rapidly rising China, for example, threatens a colossal ruling US on the other. And that's the challenge, that's the underlying problem for the relationship between the US and China, and why it's so important that the two leaders understand each other and understand how that dynamic could lead them to an outcome that would be catastrophic for both countries. And that's why I think that actually their meeting, even though there were fewer deliverables than most people expected, was significant and actually made a very good start on what is an effort to try to deal with the relationship, which is inherently dangerous.
Yeah, and Professor, all of that considered then, should it be interpreted as a threat for the Chinese to invoke this, or would both sides have to act to avoid confrontation?
Well, the headline takeaway from the summit was their commitment jointly to try to construct a strategic, stable relationship. That will require dealing with dozens of issues that could become hotspots or triggers or provocations that would lead them to an outcome that they don't want. Taiwan is one of the most dramatic, but what's happening in the Iran war is another case, and what's happening in the war in Ukraine is another case. So the fact that you have the leaders talking privately and candidly, as they've been doing in actually phone calls and letters in between, about the fact that they each understand that if there were a war between the US and China, each has a nuclear arsenal that's capable of destroying the other.
That's right.
So if there was actually a full-scale war between the US and China, we wouldn't be here. So that's their imperative to try to prevent that. And by talking about the ways in which this could occur and expressing their joint commitment not to allow that to happen, they're reducing risks for all of us.
And is there a risk of appeasement in all this? Because
all right, so let me talk a little bit more about that. The problem that America has, and I guess I don't know, maybe look at me. I give an example. There was a time that I was in my prime doing boxing. I'm trying to relate this to power. That America is sort of a bully that sort of gets away with a lot of stuff with power. And if you're a guy, you're a big guy, you're at your prime with martial arts and whatever, you could kind of bully your way around to some things. But then you get older and you lose your strength. You got to sort of change how you deal with people. And it's very uncomfortable. Any guy knows that when they get older. But the point being is that's America. And you know that the sense that Donald Trump will bomb these people, the best of military. I'm telling you, our military will fall apart. Our military will fall apart. So the part being is you have a rising power of China. That's why Donald Trump went there. Why? Because Donald Trump, like these corporations, they just revere power. And power is also economic and, of course, militarily. And so this way, this sort of this dominant sort of, you could say bully that we work around the world, we're going to have to kind of think of a different path. Because like I said, how we deal with many nations like we're doing with Iran, we're not going to do that with China. And sooner or later, you're going to see it. Taiwan is going to be taken back to China. It's going to happen. You're going to see it. And I think Americans are going to start very depressingly, that's why more and more Americans are leaving, that the days of the American empire, it's over. Now, I'm not saying it could collapse into a total, whatever, Mad Max and a Thunderdome, but I'm saying a great example would be the Soviet Union, which was a world superpower, collapsing down into Russia, which is now a regional power. That's what it can easily happen. So America just is no longer, we're seeing that. Part of the reason we're pulling out of Europe, we cannot do this anymore. And so we are going to have to rethink how we're going to have to negotiate with China. But it's also going to show a lot of bullshit to Americans where they're going to wake up and say, wait a minute, you always said communism or fascism is not working. Socialism doesn't work, or I thought diversity is good. I thought immigration is good, meaning how is it that China is becoming so powerful, but they don't have these ideologies that we've been indoctrinated into America? Wow, did I lose that? I don't know if I'm still on or not. That was weird. Can people still hear me or not? I think you could still hear me. Add to stage again. Yeah, I don't know what happened on here. All right, we hear you. Okay, I'm glad you're here. I don't know why my video is just blanked out. Exit solo. All right, so I think I'm back, but he can't see me. I have no clue what happened here. All right, it's kind of weird. Didn't want to do this. I'll end the show now. I'll figure out what's going on, but that was just weird how it ended. I appreciate everyone's time. I don't want to waste anyone's time. The video's not working. Thanks, everyone, for your support. This is David Baumblatt from Terabint Leadership telling everyone, lead to victory. Thank you.